Hello everybody, welcome back to From Rhythm to Algorithm. I am your host, Brad. As always, I would like to start by saying, my name is Bradley Boas. My constitutional rights are violated. Article 1, Section 8, subsection 8 gives you, I keep saying 7, but it's 8, but it gives inventors and writers their rights to their writings and discovery to progress science. My information, my research has clearly been distributed through the academic circles as well as law enforcement. I discovered classified information completely outside of any governmental structure, and so they basically just stonewalled me from everything. So if you're watching these videos, these happen to be on YouTube, but this is all academic research that is being distributed truly worldwide. So I just want to start off by saying I'm a human being, that I am being tortured. I'm being held against my will in the United States of America. I have constitutional rights. Those are violated, and I'm surrounded by people that are literally so pathetic. When I say those words, it doesn't strike them as anything meaningful. They've scapegoated me, they've slandered my name to the point where my reputation is destroyed. Words cannot come out of my mouth to make other people change behavior. And anybody that could help me already knows, and anybody that doesn't know is going to think I'm an idiot. So I just wanted to make it very clear that the person doing all of this research, when people know what this research is, that I am being tortured, I am still being tortured, not 1 minute of 1 day of my life has been different. With that being said, continuing on with the science. So what is sensorality? Sensorality is what we restrict, what we filter, what we censor, right? And now we have to get away from tautology, right? Sensorality is censorship. We've used the same base word. And so now words have at least 2 bases. I think it's only 2, but it doesn't really matter numerically. The point is we need to combine these 2 words to create another word and show that it's already being used today. We took that up to sports, right? We're playing the Ryder Cup here in the United States of America and over in Europe right now today. Yet nothing says adulthood like playing games all day, but you play games. Life is not a game. It's a logical statement, but it's not like a gotcha. It's just true. And so when you have a game, right, game theory in economics, you set boundaries. But in physics, in reality, you have natural bounds. And 2 is stabilized, 3 is open. So 3 is a non-bounded dynamic. So for our definitions, serality is a solidified definition because it's these words that have 4 syllables or 6 syllables or 2 syllables, they reduce. So our numeric identities relate to language as well. We're still ironing out a lot of the specifics of numerics to language. But point being is that our serality, that section will be solidified. Range degenerates into bass, right? Rhythm degenerates into vibration. Sensorality with an S degenerates into sensorality with a C. Sensorality with an S won't be definable. So what we're demonstrating is sensorality does not have a solidified definition in the sense that it is finite, but it is not, I'm blanking on the right word to use here. It's general, right? General relativity. Words are related based on how they are used with other words. But that's in their form of 3 or more syllables. So there's forms of words that are definitively used, and there's forms of words that are open that change. And so that's kind of what we're getting at with sensorality. Again, I've already demonstrated this with speciality. If you said, what is speciality? It's literally every time you say the word special. So in the last time I derived an axiom, I showed that you literally just add ity to special, then you have species, like it's just a prefix, and then ality, just a suffix. And so now we're reducing sensorality down into that same completely reduced form. But receive and deceive, right? Deception, lying is deception. Receiving is when you do what? What is receiving? But sieving, right? Receiving, take away that prefix, now we just have sieving. Sensorality with a C to keep it consistent. We've already proven the consistency of language. Now we're just demonstrating a new aspect of how that manifests. So sieving, C-I-E-V-I-N-G. It's clearly the base of receive and deceive. And now, right, a sieve with an S is a filter. Sensorality with an S, sieves. Sensorality with a C, sieves. And so now we're differentiating because we're going to be able to we'll be able to completely define sensorality with a C, and that will give us our complete definition for sorality and giving us our axiomatized definition for sensorality with an S. Sensorality is undefinable completely, and that's what we just did. And to demonstrate that, what is life? We can keep waiting for a long, long time. We can wait indefinitely. And so there's certain things that you can't prove to a certain level of definiteness. What happens after you die, nobody can even begin to tell you anything. But there's so much intuition of, you can't be completely taken away. You kind of already know. But point being is information is bounded. But sensorality with a C receives. Again, now expanding that back out, because we have clearly know what receiving means intuitively. And if you say, what is it? It's like taking in, accepting something. You start to use operative words pretty easily. But sensorality receives, to keep that C with a C, meaning filtration, to the C with sensorality. But we can just reverse the logic, and we can say sieving sensors, both with a C. And so we now have to definitively know that we are solving sensorality with a C, not sensorality with an S. Because sensorality with an S is unbounded. What is life? You can't give a complete definition because it's not completed, right? Your life, who's ever watching this, you're alive. It's not completed, right? When all of us are dead, life in general is not completed. When Earth blows up and is not a thing anymore, when the Milky Way galaxy is not a thing anymore, life will still exist. And so it's bounded by what information comes in. Data or data, again, that's why you say you have a dichotomy of two. Tomato, tomato, data, data, it doesn't matter. It matters that stuff is coming in, and that you said it twice. But now we can relate that, so now getting back to sensorality with an S, but now we know exactly what we're doing. We're solving sensorality with a C, getting that defined base of sorality with a definitive, stabilized two syllables. Sensorality is separationality. Right? We talk about pouring is holy, a pore, porous, like literally a hole. Whole means holy, or holy means whole, like a whole. But if I say sensorality is separationality, right? You would spell that S-E-P-A-R-A. Now all I've done is I've changed that letter to an O, separationality, right? The preservation of pronunciation is still there. You still hear and logically think the word separate, but I said separate, right? But what it does, the syllability is preserved, the sound is preserved, but we have a new variable. Now we take away that SE, now we have porationality. Porationality. Again, based on the word pour, a whole. And so separate, separate. But it gives us that new variable. Spelling a word defines a variable, and now we've modified that variable while preserving pronunciation. Sorality porates. Porate, that's not a word. Oh wait, yeah it is. It's a form of vibrate. Again, remember, vibration's always our base, and we're always rooting back to that. Porality, sorality. How do we get nouns from ums? What came first, a verb or a noun? We discussed how verbs are all forms of vibration, but all words are forms of vibration. All words are vibration. But how do we get nouns from ums? Nouns come first, right? If you're a caveman in the woods and you run into another caveman, the first thing you're going to yell at them is not, what's your name? It's going to be some sort of action. Well, probably it'll just be a sound, like, making your presence known, a growl or roar, banging your chest. But once we go from sound to meaning, with structured syllables, its verbs are going to come first. And that's why the nouns, right, in Phoenician, the vowels are implied. The verb or the nouns would be implied in context because you're in person. If you're communicating with somebody and I say run, you know I'm talking to you. Or if you just read the word run, should I run? Are you running? Who's doing the running? So context defines the variable, and the first thing you would establish is a verb. So verbs base nouns. And so now for our range degenerates into base, nouns degenerate into verbs. And so verbs are our base. Verbs, vibes. See? Logically, physically, linguistically consistent. And so that's a huge, huge, huge reduction, right? Taking our range degenerates into base, making that specific to verbs degenerate, or nouns degenerate into verbs. So verbs, all of the words you're looking at are based on verbs. Again, because I keep saying stuff about prepositions, but you can't have a prepositional phrase. Like noun and a verb is a complete sentence. So those are your two that's the basis of a complete sentence. And we can definitively now say verbs base nouns. And so now, it is what it is. What differentiates a question versus a declarative statement? Literally the order of those words, right? It is, declares. Is it, questions. Boom, and complete generality, monster proof. All right, in French, est-ce que, is it that? And fun fact, I've already solved all of the base logic in French as well, and I'm pretty much almost done with Spanish. I think I've already done enough to say I've done it in Spanish as well, and certainly working well into the Slavic languages as well. And so, this is ridiculous. But what is that? That is this. It is what it is. What is that? That is this. So again, that it is what it is the connecting general form of the solution, and then you break it apart, and then you're back into dimensionless analysis where you don't have an equation sign, and it's just run to sprint, right? There's just a preposition and no verb. And so we've separated that logic. Now again, remember, we're making it more specific. We're climbing up our generality tree, right? It is what it is the most general solution thing you can say to anything. If we separate that back, we have to show where the two components, specifically to sensorality, combine to get that word. And then once we show the two base words, there'll be, again, forms of stuff we use every day, such as sport or sort or something like that. But we've now differentiated explicitly linguistically what establishes a question and what establishes a statement. Because remember, we are deriving the question to ask to answer what is sensorality. Attractionality appeals, right? Sensorality attracts. Again, we're working back through all of our operational definitions that are logically consistent, but still not specific enough to be definitive. But sensorality attracts, gravity attracts, attraction appeals. What is appealing? Well, appealing relates to appeal, repeal, but appealing is to contest, right? Contest, contest. Appeal, appeal. And so that has the same pronunciation, but to appeal, appellation would probably be what it would extend to. But it's another form of attraction, is appealing. And so, but if you appeal something, you're contesting it, right? If you get a bad court ruling and you appeal it, you're contesting it. So again, just extending the logic. Sensorality is contestality. And when I drove that word, it strikes me as such a syllable by syllable thing. There's no like phonetic cadence to it. Contestality. Contestality. 5 syllables. And so again, we're going to have that very certain you're going to degenerate from 5 syllables to 3, or from 4 to 2. It would probably be from 4 to 2, but then we'll just show that connection from the 3 to the 4, because again, the difference between 3 and 5 is still 2. The difference between 2 and 4 is 2, and we're counting the differences, the transitions somehow. A lot of these things I do intuitively, and it's not. I just have never tried to articulate it before, because you're already doing these things. This is already how languages works. I'm just demonstrating it to you. And for whatever reason, it gives you ontological shock. Words have meaning. Why is that surprising? But sensorality is contestality. Sorality tests. A test is a gauge. And getting back to what is language, it's a contest. It tests. A gauge tests. A contest is a gaugement. Gauges people's competitiveness or competency. But again, just extending the logic with the minimum amount of words I need to make the next step. In the same way, if you don't want to create a big mess, you don't get a lot of things out. I don't use a lot of words because how tight this proof has to be without fucking everything up that's the anomaly savant level shit. Where it's like all of the things that are true today in all ontology are still true, but I have to weave through them and I don't look at anything. It just comes to me. I don't know, I don't know. But I hate being me. I really, really hate being me. Obligatory is imperativity, right? We've connected that obligationality is a form of sorality. We connected that before. But obligatory was an operative word of a definition we need, is imperative. In both of those words, the operative word is must. It's imperative, I must do it. I'm obliged, I must do it. What is must? It's a must. What is it? Right? People say that phrase, it's a must. What is it? You're right, it's sensorality. So we're bounding all of these things. Getting it back to generalizing again, doing all of the nitty gritty and then pulling it back out to something general and simple. Sporting is playing, right? We had sportality, sorality, soritality, sporitality. Sporting is playing, right? Real men and women of societies provide, they educate, they raise families, they contribute to society. Little children, age is just a number. Little kids run around and play games and cheer, right? To me, nationalism is all of the kids from high school that still wear their varsity letterman's jacket in college. It's like, grow up, right? And then they'll say, we're all one species. Well, there's more than one species on this planet, boys and girls. It's like, we're all one sentience. It's just like, yeah, like, just be less of a fucking dumbass. It's kind of what the world boils down to. Don't be a dick and don't be arrogant as fuck because you're ignorant about something. Everybody is. There's no way you can know everything. Sporting is playing, but what is play? Play is fun. Play, say, sensorality says. Sorality says. Simon says, say, sorality. Right? Who's Simon? Why is he saying to say stuff? But there's that childhood's game. Ring around the posy. Ashes full posy. Ashes, ashes, we all fall down. Range degenerates into bass. All of these little kids' limericks are like fundamental intuitions in kids' songs. And so, but Simon says, say, sorality. Right? That was a cool, I don't know why, but that's complete localized theorem is what I call it, because clearly Simon says is like a, where does that come from? I don't know. But it's clearly local to Earth, to humans. And so it just, that came up into the derivation, because again, I'm a part of this society. Like, I've learned all of these things. I'm just piecing together logic from different disparate parts of ontology. That's all I'm doing. And then iterating them through A plus B equals C, or A equals B, B equals C, so A equals C. That's it. That's all I'm doing. But sorality is security. To secure is to stabilize. Relating it back to that stability axiom, to that efficiency axiom. It's coming full circle. But stable, stabilize. Right? See how we added that I? If you're stable, S-T-A-B-L-E, is different than if you stabilize. Right? So we have added that I back in. And so whatever, we had to take out this I and then put in the I, and I can't really even begin to formalize why I'm doing that, but it happens. It was very, very poignant for speciality. But finish there. Stable, stabilize. So what is sensorality? We are very close. And I will see you on the next one. And again, I am seeking immediate humanitarian asylum outside of the United States. I am. It's true. It's not a joke. I don't have constitutional rights, and when I say that to people, I am being tortured. Please, somebody help me. Here's some free math. Have a nice day.